In this video, we are going to discuss about the proof of sampling theorem. So let us sample a continuous time signal x of t by multiplying it with an impulse train. So here this is the signal x of t, and when we multiply the signal with impulse train, so this is the impulse train. We have discussed about impulse train in the previous video. We will get a sampled signal. Here let us represent the impulse train using p of t, and the period of this p of t is capital T, or sometimes we will represent it using ts. So this is the meaning of this representation, is that this is the sampling period, and we can also represent the sampling frequency omega s as 2 pi by t. So this is known as the sampling frequency. Now actually we are multiplying the signal p of t and x of t. So it is shown as a block diagram here. Here the x of t is coming and it is multiplied with p of t to obtain xp of t, where xp of t is known as the sampled signal. So this can be mathematically represented as xp of t is equal to x of t into p of t. Mathematically this means that if you multiply the signal x of t with p of t, that is the impulse train, we will get the sampled signal xp of t. So this is the xp of t. You can also see that the sampling period is capital T in this diagram, so which is the same sampling period of the impulse train, mathematically expressed as p of t is equal to summation n varies from minus infinity to plus infinity del of t minus nt. It is a train of impulses, right? So that's why we are representing it like so. P of t is the impulse train. Now we can mathematically represent the sampled signal xp of t is equal to summation n is equal to minus infinity to plus infinity x of nt into del of t minus nt. Ultimately we will get samples of original signal. So this is the mathematical meaning of this equation. Xp of t is equal to summation n varies from minus infinity to plus infinity x of nt del of t minus nt. Now what happens here is actually the multiplication of the signal x of t and the impulse train p of t to obtain the sampled signal xp of t. Now if you take the CTFT of this particular operation, if you take CTFT, that is continuous time Fourier transform, we will get the Fourier spectrum of this particular sampled signal, that is xp of j omega, which is nothing but the convolution of x of j omega, that is the spectrum of the original signal, and the spectrum of the impulse train p of j omega. So why this is true? Because we have already learned that multiplication in time domain is equal to convolution in the frequency domain, and vice versa, that is multiplication in the frequency domain is equal to convolution in the time domain, and right. So this is the result we are obtaining. Now we can represent this particular convolution operation like this, that is 1 by 2 pi into integral minus infinity to plus infinity x of j theta into p of j into omega minus theta into d theta. So this is the convolution integral. Actually this is the convolution integral which we have already studied, convolution integral. So this convolution integral is in frequency domain. Okay, so convolution integral is in the frequency domain. We have to note that. We have already derived the CTFT of impulse train in the previous video. CTFT of impulse train, which we have already derived in the previous video. From that we can substitute. So what is the CTFT of the impulse train? P of j omega is equal to 2 pi by t into summation k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity del of omega minus k into 2 pi by t. So this is the equation which we have derived in the previous equation. So this can be also written as 2 pi by t into summation k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity del of omega minus omega k omega s, and t is the sampling period, where omega s is the sampling frequency and t is the sampling period. Now if we substitute this particular result, that is the CTFT of impulse train, into our actual equations, that is xp of j omega is equal to x of j omega convolution p of j omega, which is also derived like this, that is 1 by 2 pi into integral minus infinity to plus infinity x of j theta into p of j omega minus theta into d theta, where theta is the dummy variable which we have already studied when we are studying the convolution integral. So this is a dummy variable, okay, dummy variable. So if we substitute this result into this particular equation, we can write it like this. We will get xp of j omega is equal to x of j omega convolution p of j omega, which is equal to 1 by 2 pi. So where is the 1 by 2 pi? You can see that the 1 by 2 pi is present in this equation. So we have to write the 1 by 2 pi from that equation. So 1 by 2 pi into, we have to put the equation of p of j omega, that is 2 pi by t, into summation k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity del of omega minus k omega s, and we have to convolve this particular signal with our x of j omega, x of j omega. So that is the meaning of this particular equation if we substitute into this convolution operation. Now from convolution with an impulse property says that, if you have forgot this, please review the videos or the notes. You can see that convolution with an impulse property says that if we convolve x of j omega with del of omega minus k omega s, what we will ultimately get is the shifting of the function to the location of the impulse. Ultimately what we will get is x of j into omega minus k omega s. So the meaning is that convolving x of j omega with del of omega minus k omega. So this is an impulse train, actually this is an impulse train, and this is the spectrum or CTFT of x of t. Convolving this CTFT of x of t with the impulse train will shift this particular CTFT of x of t, that is the spectrum of x of t, to the location of the impulse train. Okay, so that will be shifted to the location of the impulse train. That is the meaning of this particular operation. So what happens inside this, if you substitute this result into this particular equation, what we will get? We will get this 2 pi and this 2 pi get cancelled, and we will get a 1 by t remaining, So we can say that xp of j omega is equal to 1 by t into convolution of this del of omega minus k omega s and x of j omega s will shift this x of j omega to the locations of these impulses, right? We have just now understood that. Now that is equal to 1 by t into summation k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity x of j into omega minus k omega s. So this is one of the important result, and this particular result says that the spectrum of the sampled signal. So this is the spectrum of the sampled signal, which is equal to the shifted replicas, right? The shifted replicas of x of j omega, not shifted replicas alone, superposition of shifted replicas of x of j omega. So these are all shifted replicas of x of j omega, and actually it is a superposition of shifted replicas of x of j omega. It will go to different positions of omega s for k is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, and it is scaled by a factor 1 by t. So this is a scaling factor. So if you find the CTFT of xp of t is our sampled signal. If you find the CTFT of the sampled signal xp of t, we will get superposition of shifted replicas of x of j omega. So observe this picture. You can clearly see that x of j omega is the spectrum of x of t, that is the CTFT of the original signal. Now this is the spectrum of p of t. What is p of t? Impulse train. So we have already derived in the previous video that spectrum of an impulse train also will be an impulse train with its amplitude is equal to 2 pi by t, which we have already seen. So what the above result which we have just now derived, so this result says that when we find the spectrum of the sampled signal, so this is the spectrum of the sampled signal, so this is the spectrum of the sampled signal xp of t, right? What we are getting is the superposition of the original spectrum scaled by a factor 1 by t. So you can see that it is scaled by a factor 1 by t, and the original spectrum, the spectrum of the original signal x of t is appearing at the locations of the impulses, right? It is appearing at the locations of the impulses, or we can say that the locations of the spectrum of the impulse train. Wherever the impulse trains appear in the spectrum of p of t, that is p of j omega, all that locations our original signal spectrum will repeat or replicas will come. So that is the meaning of the derivation which we have seen. So in this figure we can clearly see that omega m, so this is the omega m maximum frequency, omega m should be less than omega s minus omega m, right? So this is omega s minus omega m. This point is nothing but the omega s minus omega m, and our omega m should be less than this omega s minus omega m. So if this condition is not satisfied, what happen? Overlapping will occur between the replicas of the spectrums, right? So this spectrum will overlap with this spectrum if this condition is not satisfied. What is the condition? Omega m should be less than omega s minus omega m. So this is the point, omega s minus omega m, because this is omega s and to the left side it is omega m, so that is omega s minus omega m, and they should not meet each other, they should not touch each other, right? Otherwise we cannot separate these replicas of the spectrum. So what happens if this condition is not satisfied? So this particular picture shows that that condition is not met, right? So here this is omega m, this location is omega m, so our condition is omega m should be less than omega s minus omega m. Here this point is omega s minus omega m, so that condition is not met. So what happens is that these replicas will overlap to each other, right? So we cannot extract the original spectrum from these replicas. If this condition is maintained, if suppose this condition is maintained, we can faithfully reproduce this x of j omega from xp of j omega. So how can we faithfully reproduce? We have to just use a low pass filter to filter out only these particular spectrums, okay? Simply use a low pass filter to filter out this particular spectrum from the replicas, right? So use a low pass filter, to extract x of j omega from xp of j omega. So that is the thing we have to do here, right? So that is possible only if the condition omega m less than omega s minus omega m is satisfied. So we can summarize the operations happened here using this block diagram. We have a signal x of t. When we multiply that signal x of t with an impulse train p of t, which is given by the equation summation k varies from minus infinity to plus infinity del of t minus kt, we will get xp of t. The spectrum of the sampled signal contains replicas, and we need to remove these replicas, or we need to extract the original signal spectrum, that is x of j omega, from these replicas. So the replicas is xp of j omega. So we have to use a low pass filter for that, and there is a condition: the cutoff frequency of the low pass filter omega c must be in between the maximum frequency omega m and omega s minus omega m. So why this condition need to be satisfied? So if you clearly look, so I will erase everything and I will show once again what is mean by this. So if you clearly look, you can see the maximum frequency of the spectrum is omega m, and this particular point is nothing but omega s minus omega m. So our filter should fit in between these 2 points. So it should be between these 2 points like this, right? Its cutoff frequency should be in between these 2 values. So that is given here. The cutoff frequency of the filter should be in between omega m and omega s minus omega m. So if you do that, we can extract. So xr of j omega is nothing but the reconstructed signal spectrum, reconstructed signal. So this is a spectrum of the reconstructed signal. So if you take inverse Fourier transform, you will get xr of t, that is the reconstructed signal, right? So this is the basic idea of sampling theorem we have proved here. What we have proved is that under certain conditions we can extract the signal from its samples. So is that proved? Yes. See, here you can see the input signal is band limited. It is band limited. So this condition is satisfied. If it is not band limited, it will go like this. The frequency spectrum of the signal will go like this. Then all these spectrums will overlap. All these replicas will overlap. We won't be able to separate this from the spectrum. So the first condition is satisfied. Right? Now coming to the second condition, the sampling frequency should be high enough, so there should be enough number of samples, right? So we can see that omega s, what is the condition? Our condition is that omega s by 2 should be greater than omega m. So this is the condition. Otherwise we can say that omega s should be greater than 2 omega m. So this condition is satisfied here. You can clearly see that omega m, so this is the maximum frequency omega m. So omega m is greater than omega s by 2. So this point is actually omega s by 2, because this is omega s, right? This is omega s by 2. So omega s by 2 is greater than omega m. Otherwise we can say that omega s is greater than 2 omega m. So that condition is also satisfied here. So if you clearly observe, you can see that this is omega s, and this omega s is of course greater than 2 omega m. So this is omega m. So if you take one more omega, it will come somewhere here, right? So omega s is greater than 2 omega m. So these 2 conditions are satisfied. That is the reason why we can put a low pass filter to extract the original signal, or xr of j omega, that is the reconstructed signal spectrum from these replicas. So we have proved that if these 2 conditions are satisfied, first condition, the signal should be band limited, and the second condition is that the sampling frequency should be greater than 2 omega m, or 2 times the maximum frequency contained in the signal. The sampling frequency should be greater than 2 times the maximum frequency component present in the signal. So if these 2 conditions are satisfied, then we can easily recover the signal from its sample. So that is the proof of sampling theorem.